Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Pathways to Success with Ali. Another episode here. We're about to explore the many routes people take to build meaningful and fulfilling careers. I'm your host, Ali, and every week I sit down with someone who's studying or working in a professional field to learn from their experiences, challenges, and inspirations. Today's guest is someone whose journey really highlights how careers can evolve. She's an ex student who went on to study computer science at Durham University and then worked at Visa. And we're going to delve into what she did at Visa as well. She is now pursuing a master's degree in finance at Imperial College London. We'll be talking about how her interests have changed over time, how she dealt with setbacks, and the advice she has for anyone trying to figure out their next steps. So let's get started. Mithara, it's so lovely to have you here. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
First of all, thanks so much for inviting me. I was actually really excited when I got the invite. I'm good, thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. No, it's really good to have you. So, for those of you who might be hearing your name for the first time, how would you describe yourself?
Let's say I'm quite outgoing. If you didn't know me, I would say also I say yes to everything. So this could be going on a walk. This could be doing some sort of sport. This could be just like doing like I don't know some chill activity like pottery painting. I say yes to a lot of things. I'm quite versatile.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you as somebody, in a bad way, you're very loud and you were not afraid to like shout out the answers. And, it was nice actually quite to have that in the room. And yeah, no, brilliant. It's good to see you've moved on and you've done, some amazing works over the years. So we'll delve into that today, definitely. So when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you like have a career in mind? Because, when you're young, a lot of people have these sort of like, dream careers. Was there something you really had in mind that you wanted to be in the future?
So a lot of I know South Asian girls can relate. I was pushed to do medicine. So yeah, I was pushed
Mhm.
to do medicine. To be fair, I actually did want to do medicine, and I wanted to be a heart surgeon. Because I was pushed and steered towards that direction. That's all I knew until actually I was in year 9, and there was a teacher at the time. It was Mr. Wilkins. He organized a trip to Cisco, and he selected me. And I remember thinking, "Oh, okay, no, this is nice, fun trip to Cisco." And I remember seeing all the screens, a lot of technology. We were given a tour around, and I was literally amazed. And then I remember coming home and be like, "Right, medicine's not for me. I'm going down technology." I knew I wanted to go into technology, and then at that time, technology was really beginning to pick up. So the first iPhone had already come out, the first iPad had come out. Technology was really started to boom. Not AI level yet, but technology itself had started to boom. So then I like looked into a little bit more. And then when we had to pick GCSEs and A levels, we had to do a bit of research. And then that's how I chose computer science as like a career field. And then cybersecurity in general. I used to watch a lot of films, TV series like 24, and I loved the hacker role. And I did a summer school in year 12 in cybersecurity. So then I knew I wanted to go into ethical hacking, cybersecurity, that field.
Okay, cool. I think Mr. Wilkins will be pleased to hear this, that he took you on a trip and it helped you make a decision. That's amazing. You know what it is? I remember going to actually Cisco myself. The technology they have there is amazing. Like some of it's so futuristic. There was a few years ago, I took, I think it was a year 9 group as well, actually. And they had to come up with, they gave them these robots and they had to code that robot to draw something. And it was just so cool. And it was just that this was a few years ago as well. Bear in mind that, this is all very current and new to a lot of people. It's not very new now, but it was really exciting. So when students at that young age, they see it, this is like, oh wow, this is something that actually exists. And I think this is why it's so important to do your research early on, get experience, like work experience in places, not obviously in year 9, I'm just saying as an example, but like in year 9 you can start seeing what potential careers are out there, and like that influence your decision making, which is fantastic. So would you say, like, as you grew older and you learn about different industries, did your career aspirations change? So based on just obviously that was one experience, was there other kind of experiences throughout from then onwards that helped to change or shape your journey to a different direction?
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know, some people might say this is like a problem, some people might say it's a good thing. I have too many different interests. So I was like, okay, do I go like so my A levels, I actually took biology, not computer science, actually, as one of my options. Cause I was like, okay, maybe I still do like medicine, but then I like technology and I also really liked law because I did mock trials in school and I loved the aspect of, law and being a prosecution lawyer. And then at one point, I even considered being a pilot. So I have too many
Mm,
interests. My parents were like, right, you just like narrow it down a little bit. And I remember we had, oh, I forgot her name, but there was a careers advisor in school. And then she was like, "Okay, let's narrow it down." So yeah, I dropped biology 3 months into A levels. I was like, "No." So medicine was like out of the picture for me. That was like a clear right. I'm not going down this path anymore. Pilot, I was like, right, there's too many, things to do. Like, no. Law and computer science, I saw you can go into like the fields are intersecting both. And then how I went to cybersecurity was the fact that that summer school I did, I just applied for that summer school. And if we just go back to Cisco in year 11, that
Hmm.
summer you do NCS, applied for again, Mr. Wilkins was great. He was the careers advisor and he used to send out things. And Cisco did a 1 week like program and I just applied for the technology stream and I got in before NCS and I went there and it was great. I loved it. It was a great technology stream and it just really like emphasized my like love for technology. So I
Mm.
knew that was also like, steering me towards that career path. And cybersecurity was my niche because that was like the big boom back then. Like that
Hmm.
was, like, the big boom, that was the AI of now, I would say. It's like, "Okay, right, we need to
Yeah.
protect all our devices. This cybercrime is getting big." So yeah, that's how, it shaped me. I also do not follow trends, but I do, like, keep on top of the world, not
Mm.
necessarily the news, but I do wanna be, like, current. So I think that's also why I shifted that way that time.
Sure. I know you talked about how you went into A levels and did biology and then dropped that. So I want to kind of just go back a step there. So when you chose your A levels, it's a huge decision for many people because going from 11 GCSE, 10, 11 GCSEs to now choosing three or four, like kind of A level choices, can be a really big decision. And a lot of people find it really challenging. So how did you pick your A level subjects? Like, for example, what did you do in terms of research? And, what did you, how did you, what factors influenced those choices you made? Just because I feel like a lot of people find that journey into the next steps from A11 into basically GCSE to A levels quite a big jump. So just kind of what helped you? I know you mentioned about the careers advisor and others. Like, was anything else that kind of shaped your choices, subject choices?
Yeah. So firstly, I would say I found it quite difficult as someone who likes a lot of things to just narrow it down to
Yeah,
like from like 10 to just
exactly.
3 or 4. It's hard because you have your interest and you just have to suddenly narrow it down. So I think my biggest advice is number one, think about what you want to do in the future because some courses do require certain subjects. Like for example, law, you need to do an essay based subject, and medicine you have to take biology or chemistry or something. So I first of all looked at the subjects I had to take. Because if I was going into that career path, I would have to enjoy that career path. So if I
Mm,
enjoy that career path, the subjects in that career path to take me there, I would have to enjoy that. So if I didn't enjoy the subject, then I wouldn't enjoy the career path as much. That was my
exactly.
like rationale. So I looked at like the university website where I wanted to go to, and I checked. It says like the subjects, the requirements you need to study that course, and computer science required maths. Now, personally, I would say maths is a subject that opens up a lot of doors, whether that's finance, accounting, statistics. It's a very broad subject. So I knew I wanted to take maths just to keep many doors open for me in the future. So that was maths. Now, because I said to you, medicine was on the cards. So I took biology, chemistry as well in the beginning. But then I actually really enjoyed chemistry. I thought chemistry
Of
was really
course, the
fun.
best.
Oh, yes, sounds a bit biased. I also did actually have you as my chemistry teacher
You
in year
did.
11.
Yes, you did.
It was your first year teaching and you had our
Hmm.
class, I remember.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, but no, chemistry was enjoyable. I don't know about the teacher. No, I'm joking. You are a good teacher. I did enjoy chemistry. I was actually really gutted I didn't have you in year 12, but I still had really good teachers.
Hmm.
So yeah, I took chemistry because I liked it, and chemistry, just in case, kept that science through open for me. So
Mm.
I would recommend to anyone keep your options as broad as possible if you're not like dead set on studying something. Like I changed, and I'm lucky I did maths, which we'll get onto in a minute. So yeah, maths and chemistry, I kept to open doors, and chemistry just in case was science. And then I switched biology for computer science because even though courses didn't require computer science, it said it was preferable. So I took that.
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
most courses needed further maths. Now, again, further maths was like not essential, but preferred over computer science. And I'm so glad I took further maths because now in finance, there's so much maths that goes beyond maths, and it came up in further maths. So my 4 A levels were maths, further maths, chemistry, computer science. I started an EPQ for law just in case, But then we were the COVID year, so I ended up not doing it in 2020. Another tip I would say is if like there were some subjects I really enjoyed and I really wanted to do, like drama was great. Miss Canada was such a good teacher. But then I don't know, for me personally, I feel like if I do something I love as a study and I really go into it, it almost turns into a chore. It's not a hobby then. So if you're someone who likes to do something as like an enjoyable factor like music or drama, or even let's say learning about, I don't know, psychology, let's say, then and you're not considering it as a career, by the way, then I would keep that on the side because I still did like drama productions, you know, with school. And then psychology I took like as an elective later on in like uni. So yeah, if I had to summarize, number one, check the course that you want to do, what the uni requires. If you're not sure, take subjects that keep your options as broad as possible. So like caters to your interests. And then third option makes you actually enjoy those subjects. Because biology I took because medicine needed it, but I didn't like it. So I dropped it like three
Mm,
months.
brilliant, brilliant. And in hindsight, do you think your A-level choices set you up well for studying computer science, or is there anything you would do differently if you were to go back in time?
No, I think I'm very happy with my A levels. I mean, I
Hmm.
could have taken physics. That would
Yeah.
have maybe helped a little bit more, but I think I really enjoyed chemistry and like I actually tutor like, I was tutoring during university and I still
Hmm.
tutor now. And I teach A level chemistry and I just love like just the
Amazing.
yeah, it's just so nice like just going through benzenes and drawing the cyclical cycles and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm very happy with how I
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the subject choices you had, they opened up many doors. Like it wasn't, it wasn't kind of streamlining you to this one direction. There were so many doors that it opened for you. So it kept your options open ultimately. And I think that's really important. And like you summarized, I think choosing subjects that you enjoy is really important because at the end of the day, whichever career path you're going down, you're going to be doing that for the next 30, 40 years of your life. So you need to make sure you enjoy it. Otherwise, you're going to really find it hard. And cool. So I know you obviously did computer science at Durham University. Why Durham University?
Okay, so I did the Oxford Cambridge. I chose so you can only apply to one during UCAS. Got rejected from Cambridge after like the third stage. And Durham was like the next it was like in my words, I'm gonna say like the BTEC Oxford Cambridge. And we have a joke in Durham that everyone who goes there is Oxford rejects because a lot of
That's
us
horrible. That's terrible. What's wrong with you guys?
a lot of us there were like, okay, yeah, we were rejected from Oxford Cambridge. Like it was like a running joke.
But Durham is like one of the top universities you can go to as well. You know that, right?
He's good. Yeah, no. But like it was great because it had the college system which I wanted. I wanted like a college or like a campus feel. And it had like a river to row. And also I've lived in London my entire at that point 18 years. I was like, I want to explore another city. So that was another reason. Yeah, so yeah, those are the reasons really why I chose Durham. It was a bit too far, but now looking back, it was literally like really pretty. Like I loved it. So I'm happy with how it worked out, and also I didn't know this at the time. Durham so not yeah, I didn't know this at the time of applying, but Durham allows you to do a year abroad with any subject
Mm,
you do, whereas
okay.
some universities, it's like only languages or only like certain subjects, but whatever
Selective
you
courses.
study yeah, whatever you study, you can do a year abroad, which I found out second year.
Mm, okay. So that's amazing. We'll come back to that because I believe you went to, was it Hong Kong? I think just rings
Yeah.
a bell. Yeah. So yeah, we'll come back to that actually. So like obviously, when people are choosing the university, let's say you've now chosen university, making decisions about living out or staying at home, but for you, you had no choice, had to live out, for example. So is far. So, like, what decision factor did you make in terms of finances? About what was the kind of thinking behind? How did you decide how to deal with finances and things like that? Like, what was the thinking behind that, and what research did you do about living out and things like that?
Yeah, so can I just say university is so expensive. I did not expect it to be that expensive. However, luckily, since I was quite young, I was like 16, I've always been like tutoring. That was always been like my job. I've always been good at it. So like thank God. So I've literally kept money for that because I never like my parents never made me pay for anything unless obviously like I wanted like a pair of shoes and they were like, okay, right, you can get that with your money. But I saved up quite a bit of money from that for university. That's the first thing. The second thing is I recommend at uni, if you're a student, get into tutoring because I feel like it's such a work smarter way of getting
Hmm.
money because I was at home, I didn't have to commute and I could do like quite flexible shifts. That is the second thing. The third thing is my parents, since I was born, they had like an account open. So sometimes birthday money went into that account. When they had some extra bits, they would top it up. So I had some money saved up from that because they knew university would be
Mhm.
expensive. And the loan, for some people, the maintenance loan is not enough to cover, unfortunately. And that was the same for me.
Mm.
So yeah, that's another factor. And then the last thing is, I think I don't know, maybe it's because my dad's pretty good with money, but I was pretty like sensible. I didn't like blow it off. So I was like also like going like to Tesco at like 8 or 9 p.m. so you can get, the bargains, the
Yeah, you
reduced
have to, yeah.
goods. Yeah. Like I was pretty like good with my money in the sense of like I didn't like have a strict budget,
Mm.
but like I didn't like blow out cash. Like if I wanted something, I like thought about it. But I think I've always been a bit like careful. Not careful, like yeah, I obviously like splurge like on like concerts and stuff, but
But
like
you're smart with your money, basically. I think going to university is expensive, like you said, it's true. And unfortunately, like you are a student and everything around you, you want to do things and everything involves money. And so I think doing, like you said, something like a part-time job, whether that might be tutoring, is a great, I think, a part-time job to do because I can see how you'd be so good at tutoring because you're always very good at explaining things to someone else in the class. And so, that is a really good field to do in alongside your studies because you've already just done your A levels, so you're quite familiar with the course and what is taught and things. And so definitely it's a good thing to do for anyone doing this right now. If you're wondering what you could be doing, and definitely helps to having a bit of money coming in because you have so many expenses you got to think about. And you have to be smart with your money. So, buying a meal deal or going a time when, things are a bit reduced, why not? Because at the end of the day, you just need to eat for that day, right? And
yeah.
it's hard. Student life is really difficult. So, yeah, definitely. I think that was really good tips there, actually, that you could be doing somebody who's currently going into university. And a lot of people I heard they do tutoring already. So,
Yes.
yeah, something that a lot of people could be doing at university as well. Thank you for that. Right, brilliant. So,
Thing I would just wanted to add, if you do have savings, put that into an account where they generate interest. At least you earn something. You get like an
yeah,
extra bit. So that's what I
yeah.
also recommend.
Yeah, amazing. Now, in terms of whilst you were at university, was it as you expected in terms of academically and socially? And what surprised you the most, would you say, whilst you were there?
I would say academically it was very challenging. I think, in school with GCSEs A levels, you have a specification for each subject. You follow the specification, like the teachers follow the specification. And if you need to revise, you just make sure you learn everything off that spec because nothing extra can come up, right, in your exam. And you have tons of past papers, I would say, from different exam boards as well, for both GCSE A levels. You get to uni, there's no specification. There's like a module list and then they have some textbooks. And it's almost, well, for like the subject I did, computer science, it was some of the coursework we had. It wasn't even exams, it was some coursework. It was like a page of instructions of what to do. Sometimes they give a marking criteria, sometimes they don't. And to get those top marks, you need to include things by doing your own research that's not on the specification. That and there's no past papers because for coursework there's no really past content because sometimes they change the coursework and you have to like research current things like state of the art as they say and include that in your coursework to get those high marks. So academically, you're just baffled, I think, sometimes. Like, that's why I think first year for some unis doesn't count because you're really just trying to understand how exams and content works at uni. So academically, I would say it's a bit intense when you begin with. And even for my friends who did law, you just have to read a lot and use your readings in your work. You're given a list of readings but it's not limited to that. You can read more and include more things from other things. So it's a lot of I would say you have to do a bit of research as well if you really want to get these top marks. And the grading is a bit different. So anything above a 70 is good. And it seems easier, to get a 70, but they're quite strict with the marking, I would say. Again, depends on where you go and what you do and how you engage with the subject. And you have to sometimes write in a certain academic way. So, in school you do essays and stuff like that. With some courses, like for our course, and I know some like engineering and other courses, and I know history has a different way of writing it. You have an academic writing structure. So we had reports to write and going from coding to suddenly writing a report, like an academic report that could be published, it's a crazy jump. So I would say that first year of uni is almost like a very steep learning curve just to like really understand how they mark you yeah, you don't have like a set specification. And in GCSEs and A levels, the whole nation does the same like
Mm,
structure roughly, right? With uni, my course could be completely different to the same course at a different uni.
yeah.
So that's how I would say academically. And then what? Oh, so another thing is that I would say it's a bit more relaxed and more things are on you. Yes, at school you get given homework. It's like do this homework. At uni, technically you could not go to lectures and you could skip lectures and you could, not do the work and still do the test and be fine. It all depends on how much work you put in and how much you understand what they're asking you. So there's
Mm,
a lot of like, do you understand what's happening? And it's a lot of work you need to do by yourself. So which is why if you don't want to go to university, then I don't think you should go because you won't be motivated to work, if that makes
mm,
sense. Maybe another path might be better off for you. Socially though, it was great. I think uni experience is what you make of it. If you put in more, you'll also gain the reward. It's almost what you put in, you gain.
mm.
So if you join societies, if you do clubs, if you do different groups, activities, you'd enjoy a lot. And I think for someone like me, I really enjoyed that aspect. There's just so much you can do. And you meet like so many, not only are you meeting people from across the UK, you're meeting people from across the world sometimes. So just seeing their like aspects and views, it's like a crazy world. Like your eyes just open so much. You're like, wow, there's so much out there. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
No, you're right. I think what I would take from that is you have to be really independent from the get go, and you have to learn to survive on your own almost. Whether that be studying, also living out is really really hard, and thinking about budgets and all of that stuff. So academically, you've got to remember you're going to be very much into your books all the time, and it's going to be a lot of reading, and you have to be ready to delve into not just books like journals and things like that, which you don't get to do during your A levels. And I think a lot of people in A level, you're kind of supported your way through it. You're guided, like you said, you have a spec to follow and things like that. Whereas like university, you're almost on your own. You have to kind of read through everything, and it's really hard. So I think if you're currently doing your A levels, you need to become more independent individuals, so that when you get to university, the jump isn't as big. Brilliant. And socially, like you said, I feel like you make some of the, some people say it's like where you meet your best friends and what have you. And it's true because you meet so many different people. You get to find what your interests are. And because you spend so much time and sometimes, you're living out, they say the best way to know somebody is when you live with them. And so, you get to really find people you really, just gel with, let's say. And you get to find somebody who you're, become really good mates with. And I know you'll be friends with maybe people from school still, but I feel
Yeah.
like you make some of your best friends during university as well. So yeah, again, people come from all over the world and you get to meet people from so many different backgrounds. It's amazing. And the societies really help to learn about all different things as well and get involved in various activities and things that they put on. Brilliant. Yeah. But in terms of obviously you mentioned about academics and socially, would you say outside of that, what skills would you say you developed whilst you're at university that was just as important as the academic side of it?
Say the ability to speak to adults and professionals. For example, in school, you're just around people your age and teachers, and you do have to respect teachers, but it's a very like a professional setting in school. Like you just like go to school, you learn. Yeah, you joke around. Like we joked around in chemistry, but it's different when you go to university because sometimes you have to be in a professional setting
Hmm.
and where you do refer to them as their first name and you have to network. And I feel like that word networking always irks me, but you have to say it in that sense because you do actually have to start thinking about careers at some point and you need to present yourself in a certain manner if you do want to get certain jobs because I know law is a lot of networking needs to be done. So you need to go and put yourself out there. So learning those skills of networking and really putting yourself in those professional environments where you're meeting industry professionals and people in the job that you want to go into. And you almost have to, it's almost like you're pitching yourself like, I am a valuable candidate, but without showing off and without being too arrogant, but also putting a good light on yourself. I think that's something you gain at university. I mean, you can do that in school, but there is a lot more opportunity at university because at that point also you're an adult, you've grown up a bit. You also might have a clearer picture of what you want to do. So those are some skills I gained in Durham. And I know a lot of universities have career fairs where these companies do come along. And I think they're quite useful because again, you have to like you get to find out what you want to do and you network and you present yourself and sometimes you might have to ask for their LinkedIn and go from there. Especially nowadays, the job market is so tough. It could be word of mouth sometimes. You do have to present yourself well. And it's hard because you don't wanna you feel like sometimes you can't be yourself because I can't be very energetic and out there, be cracking jokes with like a future, a job recruiter. So you do have to almost put, I would say, not a persona, but you have to put like a professional stance upon yourself and present yourself in a certain light.
Mm, absolutely. I think like networking is really, really important in general anyway. And I feel like, especially when you're kind of mingling with professionals, you want to be the best version of yourself because your first impression is going to really have an impact on, with that individual. And there's a saying, they say your network is your net worth. And I feel like it is true because, if you are somebody who is socializing with, let's say, the CEO of the company, and then you come across as somebody who's really well spoken, very professional, and you have the ability to work for a company, let's say, for example, in the future, that CEO might, leave that evening, be like, you know what, this individual really stood out to me. I think somebody who I would love to have in my company, and it's a good opportunity to kind of build those contacts. So definitely, if you are somebody who's going onto these careers fairs or doing something where you're going outside of your kind of normal life, learn to take the details, find out about the LinkedIn information, so you can reach out to them in the future because you don't know who could be the person that kind of, especially when it comes to job market, it's really really tough. And we'll talk about that next, actually. So I know from university you finished, and actually, no, I wanted to go back a step for a second because we didn't talk about your placement year. So when
Oh,
you were at university, you mentioned about Durham gives you that 1 year abroad, and you mentioned, I believe, when you came for the presentation afternoon a few years ago, and when you were the guest speaker, you talked about your journey in Hong Kong. So tell us a bit about that. How did you find that experience?
so originally I was on 4 years masters at Durham, and I remember in my second year there was one I was like, right, I can't do 4 years of this. Like it's too intense for me. And I think because for me, so in a normal degree, you do 3 years of bachelor's and then you can do a master's. I felt like for my subject, it was quite practical. So 3 years was enough as of right now. And then I think I want to do something more practical. However, I really liked Durham and I was like, I was like, 3 years feels too short. I want to do an extra year. I don't know in what. So I remember that night I researched year abroads and placement years. And it was Wednesday at 12 a.m. and the deadline for year abroad was Friday at 12 p.m. So I remember setting up an email with the academic advisor. It was on Wednesday afternoon, and he was like, "Oh, this is really rushed. It's really last minute. You really want to do this?" I was like, "Yes." So I pulled an all night on Thursday, submitted my application 9 a.m. on a Friday. So I started Thursday because he was like, "This isn't." I did a draft. He was not happy. He was like, "This isn't good enough." Um, all nighter from Thursday 3 p.m. till Friday uh 9 a.m. I'm so last minute, it's really bad. And so you apply for three choices. So I did Melbourne, University of Melbourne, yeah, British Columbia in Canada, and then Hong Kong was my third choice. But I remember it was 5 a.m. on Friday, and I was like, I need another university because you need three. And Hong Kong's course really resonated with me, and I was like, oh, this is really good. But at that time, yeah, Melbourne looked great aesthetically, which is not a good idea because I should have gone for course. I put Melbourne as my number one, and I put Hong Kong as my number three. And then I submitted my application, didn't think anything of it. And then I got Hong Kong as my year abroad. And it was my like third option. And I was thinking, oh, well, that's fun. However, it was 2022, so COVID year. So there was a lot of uncertainty about can I go? Do I have to be in person? Managed to go to Hong Kong. And honestly, I recommend studying abroad to anyone. It was one of the best years of my life. Not only did I learn content that I really enjoyed, so it was all cybersecurity and digital forensics and intrusion detection and all this high tech, really cool stuff. It was also culturally an amazing experience where you meet like I was so lucky with the people I met to the fact that we still talk to this day and everyone meets each other. So, people from France come to Germany. I went to Germany. People came to London to see me. It's such a nice network. And
Mm.
I feel like a placement year where you work, in my head, I'm like, I can do that in the future. I can do an internship. Whereas a year abroad, you can't really, I mean, unless you work abroad. I feel like studying abroad is an experience in the UK you don't really do unless you do a year abroad, or you don't really go and study abroad unless you do a master's. So I thought that was a great opportunity for me, and I recommend that to anyone.
No, that's fantastic. That sounds like a really enriching experience. because I feel like when you are in a different country altogether, it's a whole different kind of way of working, people, and the systems in place. So being there, this is something that I want to do myself actually. Like I would love to work abroad somewhere and just kind of learn a different culture and just kind of get to know what it's like working in a different country altogether. And so being able to do that whilst you're at uni, I think is such a amazing experience. And like you said, you met some amazing people there as well, which is fantastic. Brilliant. So that's really good to know because a lot of people who might not be aware of this, maybe who might want to apply to Durham now because they offer this opportunity to go abroad for a year, might be something that people might be interested in looking into going forward. But definitely research it for people that are currently in this position looking at university options. Right, let's go on to the next step. So for you, now you finish university, applying, to maybe jobs. It's a big jump now between your kind of your big career step, you could say your first big career steps. I believe you started working at Visa. How did you get this opportunity? Like, how did you land this opportunity? How many applications did you have to do? And what was it like, after you finish after you graduated? Like, what was the job market like at the time? And how many job applications did you have to do before you landed your position at Visa?
So during my second year at uni, I applied for summer internships to do before I went to Hong Kong. And I applied for a bunch of summer internships. I had my Notion tracker and I did, but I'm not organized, but I just thought to make it look pretty on Notion. Literally, girl, I had around 25 and like I got Aviva, and then I got Visa. Yes, I went for the name and I was like, oh, Visa sounds better than Aviva on the CV. However, it was a 12-week internship and I had to leave Hong Kong early because I had to quarantine there for 3 nights. It was 1 week at the time, but then they cut it to 3 nights, like literally the weekend I was flying. So luckily it was 3 nights. And Visa were like, oh, well, you're missing 2, 3 weeks of your internship. We have to take it away from you. So I got that taken away from me. And then I was in Hong Kong and I started applying for summer internships when I came back, like when I came back to the UK. And I remember I just applied for Visa again and I said, by the way, I did get the offer last year. Is there a possibility that this could help? And luckily, thank God, this is why always tried. Like, I'm so happy I asked those questions on those because I got fast tracked. So I had to only do a test and 2 interviews. And I did my interviews when I was there. So with the 8-hour time difference. And they were like, your application was good last year. Like, we're happy to take you on. So I was like, perfect. So I did my summer internship and then I got the return offer because I would say work really hard during your internship because some companies do offer that return offer. And thank God, I had that return offer. Some companies don't do return offers, and that's also fine. So, okay, this is my fault. I knew I didn't love the internship, but during my final year of uni, because it's such a long process to do job applications these days, I became quite complacent and I was like, I have the offer. It's fine. I'll take it. It's okay. And that process of applying for jobs is so long. And I was like, let me just focus on, my studies. So I didn't apply for any other jobs and I just took that offer and I started September 2024. Now I'm doing my master's, so I'm applying for jobs. And can I say the job market is so tough? Not only like the thing is, I don't know for some people, but not only do you do all these tests and interviews, you get to that final round or the penultimate round, and then they're like, no, sorry, unfortunately, too many applications have come through this year. And you get that default response, and it's like, what more can I do? I know it's like too many applications, but someone still got the offer over me. So what did I do different to them that didn't make me get it?
Hmm.
So I would say tips are try and get it in summer internship and try and get that into a full-time offer. I highly recommend that, especially because some internships are a little less competitive than grad roles or job roles. So definitely do that. That's my first thing. The second thing is you gotta just apply for jobs. I try and make it enjoyable by putting music on while I'm doing it, or I have like a template CV, a template cover letter that I change per company. So at least you're not redoing it every single time.
Hmm.
Also, I still do my applications without AI because I feel like everyone will use, well, a lot of people will use AI. And I feel like by me doing it as a human, I get to put a bit of my personality into it. So I don't know if that helps, make my application not stand out, but a little different. So it doesn't have the same phrases of, I am a valuable candidate for you. I can do this, this, this. It adds like a tiny bit of personality without sounding informal, if that makes sense. And also another thing is, I did consider if I don't get a job and I have enough funds to travel for a little bit just to get an idea of what I want to go into, like a few months, and then start the job, like a grad role.
Sure.
Did that answer the question? I feel like
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to.
no, no. I think it was really detailed. Yeah, definitely. Basically, look at internships. It's a great opportunity for landing yourself, potentially get your feet in, and then potentially get in a position with that company if you're really good at it, and you show that you're a credible candidate whilst you're doing it. So yeah, definitely, I agree with you on that. So I think we mentioned about transitioning from already from A levels into university, and you mentioned about being independent, and then the way you kind of carry yourself as an individual, like professionally, is a bit different to the school setting. Obviously, now that you've gone from university, whilst you're still a student at this point, and now
Yeah.
going into professional environment where you're actually working for visa, how was that? How did you transition from university into working for visa? How was that transition for you?
I think for some people, it depends again on your job role. I think for some people, it might be a bit easier to really switch to that professional mindset. Like when you wear your professional clothing and, you get your, I don't know, new trench coat. And I don't know, maybe like some people might find it a bit easier with the outfit to do better in a professional environment. For me personally, I find it a little bit difficult because firstly, because I was in cybersecurity, it was full of quite older people. So I was actually the youngest in the whole entire office of cybersecurity. So I was often like the child, even though I was a grown adult, I was just very young compared to them. Like they were speaking about some of them had kids my age.
Yeah.
And they were speaking to me about, oh, during the weekend they were doing gardening, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." During the weekend, I met my friends. Some people do well; they can talk well. I found it hard. It was quite small talk for me, and I know. But then I really realized the difference between colleagues and friends. I think colleagues is quite professional, and it's different to having friends where you can joke around and like be a bit more comfortable and trust them on certain things. So I think it is important having that distinction between colleagues and friends, sorry, because you do have to have a professional what's that word? Stance in the workplace, depending on where you work though. However, the thing I struggled with was it was tech, so everyone was dressed very informally, so very chill clothing, like jeans and a top. However, in a professional environment and some places where you work, you have grad schemes, so you might have more grads. So I was lucky in the sense of even though my actual job I was with quite a different age range,
Hmm.
I still had grads, so, like, people my age where I could just, chill, be a bit more informal with. The transition really depends on who you are as a person, the industry you go to, I would say. You do have to read the room. You can't go in, like, for example, courtroom the same way you'd go into a hospital. So you do have to adapt. I would say you have to be just a bit flexible, on your toes a bit, especially for that first 3 months to see you do have to read the room a bit. So I would say I was very quiet, not quiet, but I was very observant the first 3 months just to really gauge the room, and then I came out a little bit more, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
And I think one of the things I can relate with is when I started my career, I was very young at the time, and I think I'm still young, I'd consider myself. But, and then when you first start and you're working with individuals who are much older than you, like you mentioned about some of them are like, oh my God, you could be my child, like son, or, that kind of thing. And it's like really weird working with, especially you're kind of trying to be professional in a sense. Like I was generally speaking, like I tried always to be very professional, dress professionally, and be that kind of, in that persona where I need to be. So, and it was really, really interesting because, you have to work with people you've never worked with before. You have to kind of find how you work with people as well because, when you're going out with your friends or doing things with your friends, it's very different to working in a very professional setting with colleagues, like you said. And you have to distinguish between that because you have to be professional, how you talk to them, how you interact with them, whether that be even sending an email, you have to be very, very professional in that because with your friend, you can just say, yo, or whatever, that kind of thing. But you have to say, oh, hi, dear, or whatever. You kind of have to address it in the right manner. And a lot of young people do struggle with that because even today, I get sometimes students messaging me on like we use Teams at school, and they'll message me and they'll be like, "Hey sir, yo sir," and I'm just like, "No, you can't speak to like your teacher like that because if you go to the real world, you have to be professional with people who are senior to you, and they need to learn that." That's important as well. So you're right. Like it can be hard, but I feel like we need to, you need to know how to interact with people who in a different setting is really, really important. And like you said, when you started at your place, you probably brought down the age down huge, like the mean, the average age down significantly. And then having to work with people much older than you, but you have no relation to in terms of like the current world, your interests and their interests are going to be so different. But many people will be in a similar boat to you. But I think just learn to be professional in a professional setting, regardless of the age bracket or the age the difference within your department, and just do you, because at the end of the day your job role will entail X, Y, and Z, and so you just do that and be as professional as you can in your work environment. And outside of work is different. You can be friends with people outside of work, and that's absolutely fine. So my kind of final word would be, in a professional setting, be professional. Outside of the professional world, you can do what you want. You can become, some people become really good mates outside of work, and I'm like myself. I have really good mates at work now, which I'm happy to say they're my friends. And likewise, yourself, you'll find that yourself as well going forward in the future. Like, you'll end up being friends with people that you work with, and you become, because you work with these people more than you probably see them more than some of your family in some cases. So they become a big part of your life. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, because that's really important. Now, what was your experience like at Visa in terms of day-to-day life as a newly graduate person, just completed computer science? What did you do? What kind of roles did you get involved with? Tell us a little bit about that.
Say just the people who were there were very nice. I would say they were very like nice. If I needed help, they were there. But what I struggled with was, now I like I said to you and everyone, I have a lot of interest and I really like, if I'm for example at uni, I'm very hands on. If I'm at uni, I'm doing the work. I'm really embracing that uni experience, right? Like, also, I think it's a fault of mine. I've been told I never rest, and I think I need to take a break in the sense of like, I just do a lot of things, but I like that. I like being busy. I like be like, if I have some time off, I'll be like, let me do something. Let me fill this time with something. And because I have a lot of interest, I just need. I find that like I need to be doing those. So at work, it was almost like a complete reset in the sense of I went in and I was doing the same things every day. And after 4 years of intense work and coding, it was not intense at all for me personally. I wasn't using my brain, I wasn't challenged. Personally, it felt like I was going backwards. And the thing is, it depends on where you work. And some jobs are like this in the real world. It's not at all like what you studied. It's actually very chill. And because you're working as a team, and nowadays AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, you're not really doing that challenging work or the challenging things and concepts you really learned at uni. Like for maths, for example, you probably derived some next level formula. You're not going to do that. You might not do that in your real job in the real world. So for me at Visa, I felt like I wasn't challenged and I wasn't using my brain, and I didn't really do much coding. Now, it did make sense because I was a fresh grad, very young, in a place where people have been here for 15, 20 years. It's crazy that like the wars are like 20 years, and I was like, wow, that's like longer than how I've been born at some point. And they've got these systems that they've set and it works because they're a really good company, right? So it makes sense that I can't come in as a new fresh grad and just, code then system out for them. It just doesn't make sense. So I do understand. However, it wasn't a great place for me to grow. And I feel like as someone who wants to grow professionally, and I believe 20s is a prime age to grow and work hard, I did not think that that was a good place for me to be in. And I spoke to, like the manager, like, hey, can I have something a bit more hands on, something a bit more practical? And I was given work, but it wasn't challenging for me personally. And that's just me being completely honest, like so honest. I think some of my friends saw them, they were like, Mithara, you're literally having like such a good job. It's so hard to get a job in this day and age. And you're complaining about not doing much. And I was like sometimes I'll be working at 10 a.m., finishing at 4 p.m. Some of my friends are there like putting in shifts from like 8 a.m. finishing at like 6 p.m. And they're like, why are you complaining? 10 to 4. You're working from home like 2, 3 days a week. Like it's such a good life for you. And I think for some people that's great. I feel like also in Visa, a lot of people are um older kids. So it's great for them. And I think it's really helpful that, you don't have to pay much for childcare. You can pick up your kids from school. Great. But for me, as someone who didn't have any responsibilities, no children, not married, like I didn't have anyone to depend on. It's just me, myself, and I. So I personally think I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting my potential. I could push myself so much more. And I don't want to look back when I'm 30 and be like, I spent those first 3 years just dilly dallying and not really like pushing myself. So that was literally the reason why I was like, right, I'm not doing enough. I'm not getting enough work. I'm not being challenged. I'm not pushing myself. I want to like, I want to work harder. Like It sounds really toxic, but I missed being stressed. I wanted to feel that sort of urgency, or if that makes sense, that I did at uni and really use my brain. So, and I knew I wasn't gonna get that where I was because the promotions weren't that frequent, and it's such a big company. You do have to work yourself up to do like something quite, technical and important. And for some people, I think the job is great. For some people, it's a great opportunity, and given the current job market, it's a very good place to start off with. I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
However, I knew, and I spoke to some people who were on the floor, and we said that if I didn't really make the change now, I felt like I'll be wasting my time, if that makes sense. So that's why I left after 1 year.
Yeah. No, that's fair point. Like I think when it's a very established company, they're gonna have set ways of doing things. They're gonna have systems in place that works for them. When people have been in their positions for like 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
and you're trying to progress within that company, it's going to be really hard because no one is going anywhere. So you have to sometimes make those hard decisions and kind of move on and go on to the next thing that's available to you. And you have to make those really tough decisions sometimes. No, you're right. No, fair. No, that's fair enough. I think, now what I want to talk about, because I know you mentioned about earlier on when you applied for university, for instance, and then you applied for Oxbridge and you guys have that joke in Durham and the rest of it. And then you talked about how you applied to Melbourne and then, you got Hong Kong, and so, everyone experiences setbacks at some point in their lives. So I wanted to kind of delve into, how do you personally deal with failure or rejection, whether that be, a tough exam, a job application, or a challenging project, or like, for example, decisions when you get rejected from a university of your choosing, or like, for example, if you're wanting to go and do a placement somewhere like Melbourne and it didn't happen. How did you deal with that? Because a lot of people find that really hard.
So, actually, this is kind of a funny story.
Hmm.
I'll, like, briefly mention it. When I got rejected from Cambridge in year 12? No, year 13. In sixth form, I don't it's probably the same now. In sixth form, we can wear, like, our own clothes, right? But as long as it's, like, quite formal. I remember I wore black clothing for a few days to mourn that. That's so embarrassing. Now I think about it, I was so upset I didn't get Cambridge. I wore black clothing to school for, like, 3 days to, like, mourn it. It's actually quite, like, yeah, it's I don't know why I did
That's
that,
one
but
way to do it, I suppose, because I've had people in absolute tears, and understandably, because it's such a big decision they've had to deal with. So no, a fair play to you for dealing with it in a different way.
yeah, I was like, because I feel like that at that age, right, when people like you always hear Oxford, Cambridge is like the best universities, and like if you've applied and you don't get it, it's like the end of the world. And like I feel like, your parents are always like, oh yeah, that's like the best university in the world. And I feel like I love to set myself for high expectations. So when I didn't get that, it felt like my whole world was over. I was only in year 13 at that point. I feel like you don't know what some people might not know like, what like life can bring. So I feel like that's like the closest like thing to like a big thing you have, which is why it affects you so much, you know? Whereas, when you get older, you realize there's so much more and people deal with so much more, right? So yeah, so how I dealt with that was wearing black clothing for 3 days like I was attending a funeral. I don't know what, but yeah. And then now in hindsight, looking back, I applied for Durham, I got Durham, and I'm so happy because I'll get on to Imperial in a minute, but Durham has that really good work-life balance. I was able to put myself into society and do a lot more things I think I would have done less if I went to like Oxford or Cambridge because I'm someone who needs to balance their time. I need to do societies, whereas I can't study all the time. And because I like to do loads of different things and I say yes to things, I have to be busy. I would have struggled a lot in Cambridge if I had that, if that makes sense. So I'm really happy with that setback. The next was Hong Kong. Again, because I got my third choice, it ended up being one of the best years of my life. Like, I would not have met those people. Like, we speak about it to this day. Like, literally a few weeks ago, we had this conversation. And a lot of us say, everyone who's on that exchange says, that was the best time of our lives. And we had such a good group. And we actually have a reunion in January. We're meeting in Spain. And it's
Nice.
crazy because it's like no time has passed when we meet. So that setback again led to a bigger thing. So now, like I think when I was growing up and I didn't get something, I'll get really frustrated. I think I dealt with it quite badly. I would get really frustrated. I would get really upset and blame like myself, like, oh, like what could I have done better? But then give it 3 months, give it a year, and you do something else. Like you know how they say rejection is redirection. I used to think it was kind of cringe. But now I think actually it's kind of right in a weird way because every time a setback has occurred, and I look back and I'm like, wait, I'm so happy it happened that way because I wouldn't have got this experience. And I also think when you do get rejected from something, take another route. Don't just let that define you. So because I took that other route, I got such a good experience. And obviously, like, I can be salty, be like, yeah, I didn't get into Cambridge, but it's fine. I'm happy where I am. But like, genuinely, I'm saying it like, I'm happy the things I did. Like, even me as a, yes, it was 1 year and it was like different, but I learned so much other things from that year, and I did so many other things from that year that I wouldn't have done before. For example, because I had that flexible workload at Visa, I traveled so much. I was able to do like I was very grateful, and I think I spent my money well in the sense of I think I traveled like once a month to places because that's my way of like enjoying things rather than spending it on like clothes or like expensive things for myself. So I think dealing with setbacks, you are gonna get frustrated, you are gonna get upset. I'm not gonna say you shouldn't do that. And I'm not gonna be like, oh, don't do that. Because I feel like you sometimes need to feel that frustration, you need to feel the sadness because you might have worked for it and then you feel like all your efforts have gone to waste. But once you've had that period to like deal with that, do something else. Like try something else, and who knows, that path might take you somewhere. Like that's what I think. And
Yeah.
yeah,
No, do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I feel like sometimes in life things happen, and in that moment it's really hard to accept because this was what you really, really wanted, and you really wanted to do this. So then for you, it's just like, oh, this is it. Life is finished, and I'm never gonna make it in life again, and it kind of sets you back a big way. But at the same time, like in that moment, it doesn't make sense. But later, when you kind of look back in hindsight, like, do you know what? That's probably the best thing that happened to me. Life sets you in a way that makes you the person you are. And those circumstances and experiences wouldn't have happened if that didn't take place, if that event didn't take place, for instance. So yeah,
exactly.
sometimes you might in that moment doesn't make sense, but I feel like later on, everything kind of comes together and it makes a lot more sense, 100%. And one of the things that we kind of do a lot of work around in school is about growth mindset and learning from failures. And it's not always about success doesn't always teach you things. I feel like failure teaches you more. And so sometimes when things don't go to plan, that probably teaches you in a much better way than getting that A star in the end or that grade 9 in the end or whatever it may be. So, that failures through that journey teaches you a lot more than, some of those successes that you might think has taught you, for example. So yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, you wouldn't have met these amazing people had you not gone to Hong Kong, for instance, and having these reunions in January. And it's fantastic. Like, this is what's happened due to that one incident that didn't take place. Because who knows, it might have been the same with Melbourne. I don't know. But do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. Like, it's crazy how life works.
Yeah.
Now, I know we want to kind of, we're going into the hour mark now. So,
Sorry.
in terms, which is no, it's good. And I just hope that people do engage up till this point because you've said some really fantastic stuff, which a lot of people can relate to and learn from. Now, I want to kind of delve into your journey, deciding returning back to studies. So, what motivated you to pursue a degree or master's in finance at this point in your career? So, why did you make that switch?
So I remember I said before I had 4 years in Durham to do masters, but then I dropped to a bachelor's and then I did another year. So my plan was always to do a master's. And like I said during UCAS, I applied for Cambridge. I didn't get it. So I always had as in at the back of my mind, I was always like, I really want to like just a life goal of mine was to always study at like the top 5 uni in the world. And I was like, right. If I can't do my undergrad, I'm going to try my master's. And I don't think that should be a goal for everyone. For me, that was like just a personal goal. It might be an ego thing, like, oh, haha. But like, I don't know. I just really wanted that as like a personal goal. So I knew I wanted to do a master's in general in my life within the first, like, within before age 25, right? At a top 5 uni in the world. And when I was at Visa, I was like, right, I'm not enjoying it here. I want to get out and try something else. And what I realized is this is what I mean. That year was useful because it made me realize tech seems a bit antisocial for me. I feel like for me, I'm quite an extrovert. I need to speak to people. I like speaking to clients. Tech, you don't really do that. You are kind of behind the scenes in most jobs. So I was like, right, what other what other things can I do that ties in tech well? And then I saw because I worked at Visa as a payments company, how much finance plays in. And I've always been interested in economics, finance, but never really gone down that route. Like I should have taken it for A level. Oh, actually, I love my A levels, but I could have taken economics, maybe instead of computer science, but I'm happy of how I did it. But anyway, I was like, how can I go into economics and finance? And I was like, why not I apply for a financial technology degree, which is finance and technology. But then I was like looking at courses and I was like, I've already got tech. Let me just learn all about finance and then I can tie the two together. And then I looked at I know it's a bit basic, but I looked at Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, and I really liked Imperial's course. I felt it was really practical, really hands-on. And I actually applied for Imperial during my undergrad and I hated it. I didn't want to apply. I was like, oh, London Uni, I don't like it. It's not a campus uni, not really a fan. But I loved it this time around. So then I applied, and I'm not even lying. It sounds really cliche. I literally applied like, if it happens, it happens. At that point, I was like, I want to do something else, not visa. So I was applying to other jobs as well. And when I got Imperial, I was like, I'm not even lying. I didn't I opened the email and I didn't really react to it for like a week because I didn't believe it. And then that's how I got Imperial, and I accepted it, and I was really lucky because I got a scholarship, and I got a part scholarship because I applied for a scholarship because it's quite expensive. And I was lucky enough again that I worked at Visa for that year because I literally put my all my salary towards that master's because it's
Mhm.
really expensive. So I did have to think about it. I was going to defer it for a year and work at Visa for another year, but I put all my money towards that.
Nice. So that's brilliant. That's good to hear. Like, obviously, you've made that transition now in the kind of fintech, that kind of side of things. So that itself has got a huge future ahead. Looking ahead now, where do you see your career heading over the next few years after you finishing your masters? What do you see yourself doing?
You've asked me the dreaded question, the dreaded question that everyone's asking me. Well, so before I started my masters, I wanted to go into quant, which is quant is very hands-on numbers. Like basically, if I had to explain it, it's you look at the market and you build an algorithm to see when stocks drop, so you can like quickly when stocks drop and when they're high, so you can buy and sell quickly to basically maximize profit, right? That was my plan until this literally like last month, like December, November. I did some very intense like maths modules and I was thinking, do I even want this anymore? So the real answer is I'm not sure what I want to do. However, I do know I want to go into a finance and tech role together, not just solely tech and not just solely finance. And I want to be quite people facing, but also working with a lot of data. So I think data science is the best way forward. However, I think you said this in the beginning, people's careers fluctuate so much. And when I was in school, I remember people came in and said, oh, your careers fluctuate. I used to think, no, 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 I'm going to stick to my career. But actually, now that I'm in this place, your careers will fluctuate and you won't get that first. Well, some people are lucky, but some people won't get that first job that they want or they will generally fit into. You kind of have to find your career that you like. And now, after like working and studying, I think that I know which career aspect I want to be in that field. I think I'm just going to go into like the data science field, but keep my options open. And because I have loads of interests, just take on different roles that I think could suit me. And geez, I think it's a good age to like jump a bit. So like 2 years and then I might switch. It's not for everyone, but I think I will be doing that to really find what I truly like, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So in terms of like, obviously, this is a question I love asking my guests because defining success can be quite subjective, and everyone kind of measures it differently. Has your definition of what success looks like changed since you're younger?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I used to think success was having loads of money, being rich. That's what I used to think. However, now looking at, I think I was lucky, like I said, to study abroad and really having that cultural experience. I realized it's actually not about that. It's about literally just being happy where you are. Like, I know when you're younger, you get that question, like, would you rather earn a lot of money but not be happy or, not earn that much and be happy? I think I honestly see now success is if you're happy at the place you are. For example, you could be earning tons of money but be living such a good life. And if you've achieved what you wanted to, then that's success, right? I think that's what it is. I feel like, but if you're, let's say, doing a job you love, maybe not earning as much as you thought, but you're still really happy with the environment you've built, the people you've met, the people you're with and surrounded with, and you've maybe ticked off your life goals or you've done what you wanted to do, I think that's what success is. I think it's being where you are, push things that you wanted to in a safe space. I think that's what success is.
Okay, cool. That's brilliant. Now, one of the things I wanted to just kind of hear from you as well, because when we speak to students, and you mentioned about how sometimes people come and tell you, your career fluctuates, and you don't take it as a student at that time seriously, or you don't understand what that means. So I feel like when teachers advise give advice to students, they feel the same way still. But whereas if it comes from somebody who's just recently left or kind of similar age bracket, they can relate to them a lot more. So what I wanted to kind of ask you is, what advice would you give to students who are currently choosing, let's say, their GCSEs options or A level options, and may feel overwhelmed by the pressure to getting it right? What advice would you give them?
I would say have make a list of maybe the top 3 careers or top 3 things that you like and you would like to go into. And by having those top 3, you in a way, kind of narrow the options down so you know roughly what sector you want to go into, but also kept it broad that you're super focused. And within those top 3, you'll definitely have subjects that you actually like because you're not gonna go into, I don't know, doing history if you're not interested in history, or like you're not gonna go into like law if you're not interested in some aspects of law. Like you will go into like numbers based careers if you're interested in numbers. So there must be a reason why you're liking, right, that particular career. So my advice is to keep it broad. So do top 3 out. The top 3 is a good number. Top 5 is a bit too broad, and top 3 is like a good number. So kind of you're not overwhelmed. And then from there, after you pick your top 3, um, think about which subjects do I really like. And I don't know if this is the best advice, but try and keep your options as open as possible in the sense of try and pick a subject or subjects. They'll open more doors for you than yeah than others. Am I allowed to say that? I feel like
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah,
subjects
yeah.
open up more doors than others because they're just more niche. For example, psychology is quite broad,
Hmm.
biology, chemistry quite broad. I know history as an essay-based subject is quite broad, but maybe music is a bit more niche, right? Pick if you're unsure, pick subjects where it opens up more doors, but you still enjoy it. Because I remember picking biology, did not enjoy it, dropped it. So don't pick it for the sake of it. And I also at that age, you're gonna pick subjects that people around you will can influence you, like parents, friends. I was influenced to like, and it's not like your fault. You're like so young. Like I just think back and I'm like, 16 is nothing like to what you see now, 16, 18. So like you're still so young, so it's not your fault if you do become influenced because you might be unsure. You're just using opinions around you. But try and really dive into what do you actually like. But it's harder
Cool.
said than done.
Yeah, of course. The points you made is very important. Definitely. Now, obviously, this is going to be advice for yourself now, your younger self. So, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about, it could be about careers, it could be about education, what would it be?
That's a good one. Maybe I wish I kind of like slowed down and thought a little bit more of what I want to do. Because yeah, that's what I would say. Like for example, I knew I was quite extroverted even back and quite loud, like I said back then. Um, yeah, so I would say slow down. Okay, so this is a tricky one. I always say speak to people in the industry, but then jobs change. So I can do that like now when I'm actually applying for those jobs. So maybe if you know people who are in the industry, maybe do speak to them. But in general, we slow down and think, what do I really want? And what are my interests? Like I would do the top 3. I didn't really do the top 3 options for myself, but I wish I did, if that makes sense.
And that's good advice, I think. Yeah, brilliant. Now, in terms of, let's say, there are skills that you kind of, we said transferable skills or soft skills that are really becoming more and more important across different industries. I wanted to kind of hear your perspective on this. What would be the 3 skills do you think young people should focus on developing, regardless of the career path they choose? So, what would be like 3 key skills you think people should really focus on?
I think learning to talk to different age ranges. Moving forward in the professional world, you're going to meet people who are younger than you, older than you, significantly older than you, significantly younger than you. I think it's having the adaptability to really speak to everyone. Don't just focus on being very professional to like people older than you because you might be working with people younger than you later on. I think it's having the adaptability, and I would say you have to kind of change your persona depending on environment and who you're talking to. So I think it's having that quick ability to switch your persona. I'm not saying fake it, but you might have to put on like a different attitude and way of speaking. For example, the way I speak with my friends, I'm not going to speak like that to a recruiter. I'm not going to be like, can I have a job, please? It's not going to be like that. And also, I would say it's very basic, but time management. I feel like time really moves fast. I feel like having that management. So not only are you like looking for like you're working, but also you have stuff that you actually like doing. Because I feel like as we get older, we just don't do the hobbies we used to do. Like I miss just doing the hobbies I used to do, and then it's just finding those time to like almost keep that inner child within you, because I feel like you get older and you just forget things. Your life gets consumed with jobs and like doing things around the house, or just, it's just having that time to just do those hobbies that you like. Because I feel like I rediscovered those hobbies now. So that's something.
Like teamwork, how would you say teamwork is was quite important through your journey so far?
Yes, I think, yeah, working as a team, because not like I feel like uni sometimes you can have loads of individual tasks, but in the real world, you're gonna be working a lot in a team and working with other people. So it's about like having that communication as well, to speak to like people, putting your points across in a very polite way and
Yeah.
not dominating way, but also speaking up as well, like not just being like washed by like the crowd. I think
Mm.
is really important, because like I said, the first 3 months at visa, I feel like I was just quite timid, I didn't say anything, but then you start to find your feet a bit and you have to say things in a polite manner. So I think, yeah, the teamwork and communication go hand in hand, because you're gonna work in a team, you have to be careful. Some people have worked there for their whole life, so you don't wanna overstep them, but also you wanna suggest something that could be different. So it's really about having that balance between communication and teamwork. It's with everything, isn't it? Job, school,
Yeah,
uni.
exactly. I think like even in schools now, like when you put students in a group, like you choose their groups for them, and they have to work with people they might not have worked with before. They take it in a very negative way. They're like, oh no, no, I want to work with my friends. Can I switch groups and this and that? But they don't realize like in the future in life, you have to work with people of all different ages, like we mentioned, of people who you might like or not like, and you still have to work with them. And then that's okay because not everybody's going to have the same interests as you, and they're not going to have the same things that you enjoy doing. So it's important to work with different people and work collaboratively in a team. And another thing that I want to kind of just touch on as well is presentations are really important now. And a lot of young people find it really hard to come in front of, public speaking is already hard as it is. So, being able to present to smaller groups or larger kind of room is becoming more and more common now. And so, being able to present is really important, I would say as well.
Yeah, and I would also suggest that this is what I also don't like. Is not like anyone's fault, but because everyone's so used to being on their phones and seeing things, you almost forget how to like socialize properly, or you just do the small talk. So I think it's really making that effort to be present in the place you are. Like really put that phone away, really be present, really speak to people. And like you said, the presentation and stuff, it'll really help with presentation if you're like present and speaking to people, because it builds up your confidence with human and really developing that human connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Mithara, you've been so like I feel like I could go on and talk to you for hours because you've got so much good information you're sharing with us. But I just feel like one more thing I want to touch upon before we close up, because I know it's like
Yeah.
getting really long. I really enjoy, especially if it's long, it's not a problem for me. But I know a lot of people like younger age range, they're gonna be like, oh, this is way too long to listen to. But I hope
Yeah,
people are
sorry.
listening up to this point because it's been really good. Because you've been through so much now. You've gone from A levels, which are very stressful, and then university to now working in an environment that's professional to now doing a master's. What would be the best productivity tip that you could give to people that are going through professional life at the moment?
Best productivity tip, I would say, what's a good one? Okay, I think I say this with caution. When I say caution, I mean don't burn yourself out, because I feel like I do tend to do that and I don't take breaks. So please don't do this in excessive amounts. But try and plan your time in the sense of so you're getting the most out of your time. Um, so have a list of things you want to do during your day and try and fit that in. So if you have a 30-minute break, you're like, okay, I can do this off the list. Like you don't have to plan it time by time, because sometimes things change and things happen. But have a list of things you want to get done and then slot them in your day. If that makes sense. That would be my productivity tip. But then don't force yourself, because then it becomes a chore and then you'd hate doing it. It's all psychological. Don't think of it as a chore, but the things you need to get done, try and get it done and push anything that you can't to the next day. But don't also, like I said, burn yourself out in the sense of, right, every minute of every day you have to be doing something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. That's it. I think this has been really good. I really enjoyed our conversation and thank you for sharing your insights into everything. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today from studying A levels to making choices for university and then went on to studying computer science at Durham, working at Visa and now doing your masters in finance at Imperial, which is a fantastic journey already. Your story really shows that careers aren't always linear, and it's okay to change. And there might be setbacks in life, which sometimes works out to be the good reason for it. And being such a great role model to many young people today. So I just want to say a massive thank you for to you and to everyone listening. I just hope today's
Thank you for
episode has
having me.
given you clarity, reassurance, and inspiration, especially if you're feeling unsure about your next steps. Just want to say thank you for everyone who's tuned in for this particular episode. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and join us next time as we explore another person's pathways to success. Again, Mithara, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Sorry if I waffled too much. Maybe you should put
No,
like a disclaimer, like watch it on 2 times speed.
not at all. Do you know what? I feel like they should listen to the whole thing. I really hope you enjoyed it because Mithara shared some of the, I would say really useful tips from choosing your GCSEs, A levels to even making really key decision making points in your life. And, it's been really insightful. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I might put a disclaimer, who knows? But no, thank you so much, Mithara, again.
No worries. Thank you, everyone.